What I'd like to do first is talk about what influenced us this year. I looked at many different artists, and I kept coming back to this amazing local artist who happens to be with us today, Catherine Breer. And welcome, thank you for coming. I have some of Catherine's paintings out on the table, and I think what really struck me the most about her work is her use of light and color. And Catherine actually grew up in Korea with her parents who were missionaries. So when I asked her what influenced her work, she said to me, well, it wasn't really any particular artist, it was just sort of the life I've led and the colors I saw in that culture. So it's kind of interesting to think about what influences us as artists, whether we're musicians or writers or visual artists. And today what we're going to do is when we unveil the paintings, each one of my AP Art students is going to talk about her inspiration for the painting and also the process of creating the painting. What was challenging, what was enjoyable, what they would do differently in the future. So to really get into the process and that kind of higher order thinking of, if I were to do this again, what might I do differently? And what I think I would like to do first is ask the girls to line up at the paintings, and I'm going to introduce each student, and we're going to individually unveil each painting for you. So I'd like to start with Ashley Jones. Ashley Jones is a senior, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about Muscoot Farm, which was painted by Catherine in 2007. Okay. So can you tell us her inspiration for the painting?
Catherine says she happened across a farm in Katona, New York. The buildings were so unique. This was not like the farms that she was used to seeing in Maine. This was a gentleman's farm, complete with a brick hen house with turrets. The roof lines, the colors, the shadows, and the light drew her in.
So, Celia, can you go over and unveil the painting, and then she's going to say a few more things. Okay. About creating this painting?
It was really challenging for just to get the lines and the shapes because I'm really not much of a painter. That's not my strong medium. I'm way better with a pencil than paints and a paintbrush. Though through this challenge I learned how to better use paint and mix colors to the right shades. So these purples, I probably painted them each about 6 times before actually getting the final color. Also, it was hard to do shadows and that made it more dimensional, but it was a cool thing to learn. And also, it was really hard on the scale.
Yes, and Ashley actually brought hers home over the summer to finish. So just the physicality of transporting such a huge canvas, I'm sure was challenging.
Yeah.
So on the other end of things, what was enjoyable about it?
Seeing the final product is probably the most enjoyable part about it. Just thinking about how, wow, I actually did that. Also, I really enjoyed painting the skyline. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about it, if I were to do this again, I would definitely slow down, take more time. I mean, I was trying to meet a deadline for this and try to get it done over the summer, and then I'd do more over the summer, trying to get it done before school started. So I feel like if I had more time, I could really just sit down and focus more on the finer details of it.
Right, right. Yeah, AP Art actually starts in May of the year before. So I met with all these girls last May and told them what was in store for them, and we talked about what some of the projects would be. So we actually started these in May and for the most part finished them before we left in June. And if they didn't, they had the challenge of bringing them home to work on. So that's what Ashley was referring to. So thank you very much. Good job. So next up we have Julia Mulhall, who's a junior. And she is going to unveil the 4 rowboats. So Sadie, go over, come down. Nice.
Catherine Greer describes this painting as another view of the boats moored in South Freeport. The changing in light is always interesting to her. She loves looking into the dories and dinghies to see what people have left there. The most challenging part of this painting was probably to create the colors, because to create the right shades was really hard because there's so many colors on this. And but I also found it enjoyable to work with such an expansive color palette, and it was rewarding in the end when I realized how much progress I had made. If I were to do this again, I would focus on one section until I was finished to avoid having to go back and fix my mistakes later, because it was really hard. When I finished like this color, I would have to redo it over and over again. And also the sides, I forgot to do the sides up, and so I had to do that at the end. But, yeah.
Thank you. Good job. Next, I'd like to introduce Molly Wilmot, who's a senior, and Molly actually ended up not taking AP Art, but she brought her painting home, even though she decided not to take the course, and finished the painting on her own. So I really admire her dedication to see it through and see the whole process through. So can you go over and put it down? And this is her painting, Heron Neck Lighthouse. Nice and gentle. So Molly, can you tell us about what was challenging first?
The most challenging part was definitely the color pattern. There was not one tube of paint that was remotely close to what the colors actually were. Another challenging part was definitely finding the time to go and paint all of this. It's a really large scale, so I'd start doing one thing and then I'd have to stop, go back, and then end up having to redo it when I didn't have the time to finish up one area. So.
And what part was enjoyable for you?
Enjoyable. I love lighthouses, so this painting was definitely one for me. I really loved painting this part of it. I thought that was like my favorite portion to paint, and definitely the end result was very rewarding.
Great. And by the way, they do pick these blind. They have them in a pile. So I remember you were excited when you got the lighthouse last spring. So that's really cool. And you love rowboats, right, Julia?
Yeah.
So that worked out really well. Okay, we're going to have Lexi Heidenreich, who's also a junior. She's going to unveil her painting called Yellow Barn. Oh, sure. Nice and gentle, Steve. Oh, good job.
So what Catherine said about this painting is that she often travels to Mohegan Island off the coast of Maine. She loves to paint on Mohegan because there's something about the light there which is so magical. This is the view from the lightkeeper's house at the top of the island. The view from the lighthouse is expansive. Something that was really challenging about this painting for me was understanding the shadows and the light patterns on the houses and maintaining kind of like Mom talked about, the colors, because we worked in these for a really long time, and keeping the same colors and going back to them over and over again is hard because you're not going to find the same color again after you do it once. But through that, I also learned that blocking out your areas makes it so much easier to do, and altering colors with just a little bit of black or a little bit of white makes a huge difference. But on the other side of that, it was really enjoyable for me. I actually really liked working big. I think it was really cool and really different. And for me, I enjoyed it too because I find it really geometrically pleasing with all the straight lines, and it's just nice and even, and I like it like that. And if I were to do it again, I would probably focus more on the quality of the lines and maybe change the cropping of the picture, but overall I liked it. So.
Thank you. Really well done. So our next painting is actually a dedication to Evan Doobie, a former Timberlane student, and I'd like to invite Mr. Constantino up. Can you hear me? Yeah. Mr. Constantino would like to say a few words about Evan before we unveil the painting.
I had Evan freshman year in study hall, and he came up to me and said, "Do you have any books I can read?" And I had an AP book, and I just handed it to him. And by the end of the year, he read all of my AP curriculum. And then we started having book discussions. And by junior year, he told me that he was a Buddhist, and then our discussions really took off. And we had some great discussions. We never solved any problems, but we really had some amazing times together talking. And unfortunately, when Evan passed, I wanted to think of a way of really keeping his presence here in the school. And so, since he was a Buddhist and loved philosophy and theater and history, I asked the librarians if I could start pulling books out of the stack and putting a special place for books that Evan loved. And then I got in touch with a Buddhist press, Shambhala, and asked them if they could send just a couple of books to flesh out the library. And over the past 4 years or so, they've sent me about 15 boxes of books. And at this point in time, we probably have the best Eastern philosophy collection, if not in the state of New Hampshire at high schools, maybe in the state of New Hampshire of any school. So if you want to learn about Buddhism, stop right here. And so this corner is Evan's corner. And that banner up there is from a poem he wrote, "Each must become the other to find truth." And I'm hoping that this next painting will be just another symbol of that place there, and the place that we all have in our hearts for Evan. I visit the library every day, not just to take out another book, but to visit one of my most inspiring, not just inspiring students, but inspiring comrades, friends, spirits. So you will do justice to this corner. Thank you.
Sickle is a senior. She's going to talk a little bit. We're going to unveil the painting, then she's going to talk about it.
The lotus flower is a symbolic image in Buddhist culture. It grows in muddy water, and it is in this environment that gives forth the flower's first and most literal meaning, rising and blooming above the murk to achieve enlightenment.
And I should also add, this is actually an unknown artist. Mr. Constantino and I looked over some different paintings I found, and it was an unknown artist, but we changed it considerably, but we sort of started with the premise of that kind of soft green background with the flower coming out in space. So, Courtney, could you please tell us what was challenging about the painting first?
The most challenging part for me is this was my first painting I ever did, so it was kind of intimidating about the size. And the background is very blended. It's not just solid color, so I really had to play with the colors to figure out what looked good.
And what was enjoyable for you in the process?
I think the best part for me was painting the flower because the colors are just so vibrant, and it's really an honor for me to be dedicating this to Evan.
Well, at this point, I would like to thank everybody for coming. I'd love to thank the string quartet, Sarah Cronin, Allison Laporte, Julia Faralgut, and Emma Theberge for performing today. I'd love to thank the Gourmet Foods class for creating the cupcakes that we're going to enjoy, and just to all my students, all the faculty that showed up to honor these hardworking students and this beautiful work. Thank you to Catherine Breer. I'd like to give you this, Catherine, as a thank you for sharing your talent with us. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.